Actions of the British government 1914 onwards and rise of Sinn Fein. Actions of British government. John Dillon later claimed in 1918 that the British government was deliberately manufacturing Sinn Feiners so that post-war settlement could be imposed on Ireland. This was because Sinn Fein would be too extreme to negotiate with, so the British government could introduce anything they wanted. Kitchener's treatment of nationalist recruits wanted the use of current army recruiting through the 10th Irish Division, essentially didn't trust Irish recruits and began the process of alienating Irish opinion. Contrast between IVF and UVF. IVF were not allowed to fight under their own officers, but the UVF were. IVF could not join up as a group, but the UVF were allowed the 36th Ulster Division. Southern Irish recruits not allowed own colours or badges, where the UVF were. Cream of Redmond support lost a war. The most committed of IPP supporters followed the National Volunteers into war. Many fought and died. Post-rising Coalition. Over the top and misdirected response quickly turned nationalist opinion against the British government and thus the IPP who supported the government. Executions. Drawn out over weeks. Many could have forgiven a quick reaction to the rising, but not a thoughtful killing over a period of weeks. Also took place in secret, so rumours of wholesale executions of all the insurgents began to abound. Individual cases such as Connolly being tied to a chair to be shot touched people. The Irish people had not been consulted. For example, the leaders were killed against the wishes of Dillon. Quote, "The wisest course of action is to execute no one at present, for many of the insurgents were prisoners of war and should not have been executed." Death of Cheeky Skeffington, a popular Irish pacifist, witnessed the murder of an innocent youth by a British officer. The officer had she killed without trial in prison, just as the rising finished. The officer was declared insane and soon released. Many Irish people were outraged. If this was British justice, independence could not come soon enough. Martial law, imposed by Major General John Maxwell. Second-rate political judgment was non-existent, who thought the Germans had inspired the rising. Greater Dublin area subjected to military rule despite the lack of popular support for rising. House searches and arrests including Owen McNeill, who did his best to halt the rising, angered many Irish. Death of Thomas Ashe, senior volunteer, arrested for speeches in August 1917 and demanded special category status as political prisoner. Refused, hunger strike and died during forced feeding 25th of September 1917. 40,000 at his funeral. Showed the strength of feeling against British policy in Ireland. Conscription crisis. April 1918. British desperately needed men for the war. Australia, Canada and New Zealand had agreed to conscription, and the government demanded equality of sacrifice from Ireland. Rallying call against Great British government. Dillon, now IPP leader, said, "All Ireland will rise against you," but it was too late. IPP tied to war. IPP came out in open opposition to the government, but was weakened by previous support for war and the government. Sinn Fein made respectable. Sinn Fein stood on the same anti-conscription platforms as IPP and Roman Catholic Church leaders, no longer seen as dangerous extremists. Came at good time for Sinn Fein after 3 by-election defeats. German plot. May 1918, 73 Sinn Fein leaders arrested and deported. They were alleged to be conspiring with Germans. No evidence produced. In spite of further support for Sinn Fein, as it was discredited the Great British government and made Sinn Fein more attractive. Dillon was furious as he was fighting East Cavan by-election and lost to Griffith. IPP in decline. IPP misfortune. Wartime coalition May 1915 made Home Rule favourable to the IPP very unlikely, with the government including Carson and Bonar Law. Damage to Freeman's Journal's offices. Newspaper of IPP destroyed in Rising 1916. Paper shortage 1918 in the run-up to the election. Journal half circulation. Younger 1918 elections. Franchise widening to allow younger voters. Sinn Fein more attractive to youth than stuffy old party of IPP. IPP mistakes. Wooden Bridge. Redmond links IPP with the future of the First World War. Causes a political vacuum that benefits more extreme thinking. Split volunteers and loses best support to the war. Redmond's reaction to the rising. Redmond described as having reacted with detestation and horror and never understood rising, unlike Dillon. Sinn Fein accused Redmondites of chairing the 1916 executions in the House of Commons along with the Tories. Redmond's faith in negotiation. Dillon was ready for open opposition with the government after rising, but Redmond continued to negotiate in failed Lloyd George talks May 1916 and the Irish Convention 1917. At the convention he was prepared to give away more tax-raising powers to Westminster to please Southern Unionists for no gain to the IPP. He died a spent and broken man in March 1918. IPP did not fight every seat, allowed Sinn Fein to win 29 constituencies previously held by the IPP unopposed, shows low morale of IPP. Sinn Féin's strengths. Wide appeal October 1917. Ard phase. After much negotiation, De Valera produced a form of words that many different groups within Sinn Féin could sign up to. Quote, Sinn Féin aims at securing the international recognition of Ireland as an independent republic. Having achieved that status, the Irish people may, by referendum, freely choose their own form of government. This allowed moderate former IPP members, as well as people who had taken up arms in the Rising, to all support Sinn Féin. United Front. Griffith stepped aside and let De Valera become the leader of Sinn Féin. De Valera was popular and charismatic, and Sinn Féin appeared solid and united. Respectability. Catholic Church no longer preached against Sinn Féin extremists after the conscription crisis. Conclusion. The policy of the Great British government certainly led John Dillon to declare that the government was deliberately manufacturing Sinn Féiners, but the IPP, and particularly Redmond, made tactical errors. This, alongside with the wide appeal and united assault of Sinn Féin, sealed the IPP's fate in the 19 elections in their ultimate defeat.